What's up, my friends? All my monsters send their regards. And here I am once again with a brand new episode of Filomania, the place where we dive deep into the fascinating universe of collectible knives crafted all around the world. This time, I've got something a little different. It's a knife that came straight from Amazon Prime. We're not talking about a high-end custom piece here, it's actually on the budget side of things. Still, I had been eyeing it for about a week or so, going back and forth on whether to grab it. The design caught my attention because the blade has this slight upward sweep that I personally find really appealing. So I finally decided to pull the trigger and get one. Now, it didn't exactly arrive in pristine condition. The box looks pretty beat up, as you can see. But anyway, what do we have here? This knife is branded as FB knife, but in reality, it's a Ganzo Firebird. Ganzo is the actual brand, and FB knife seems to be the OEM factory label they use. Let's crack it open and see what's inside. Right away, we get a small catalog, kind of a breakdown, that shows you how the knife is assembled, pretty handy for those of us who enjoy taking our knives apart, cleaning them, and oiling the pivots. There's also this little anti-fungus packet, a sticker, and of course, the classic microfiber cloth that almost every knife comes with these days. It's always nice to have one for cleaning and maintenance. All those extras are a thoughtful touch, but let's be real. What we really care about here is the knife itself. First impressions, let's talk about what I see and feel right out of the box. The knife comes slightly oiled from the factory, which is pretty standard, but that oil has seeped out a little onto the scales. So before anything else, let's wipe it down because it does feel a bit slippery. All right, much better. Now, my very first impression, once it's clean, I really like how the carbon fiber scales look and feel. They have this glossy finish with that classic carbon fiber weave pattern, those small, rectangular, geometric shapes you usually see in this material. Under the light, it reflects beautifully, giving it that high-tech, premium vibe. On top of that, the scales have tiny grooves cut into them, subtle indentations that definitely help with grip, which is always a plus. Holding it closed in the palm of my hand, the knife feels surprisingly comfortable, ergonomic, not bulky, just solid. Now, let's check out the action. Flip. Very nice, very crisp deployment. This one uses a button lock system. That means the blade deploys via the flipper tab you see right here, and then you close it by pressing the button lock on the side. The action feels pretty satisfying, but I do notice a bit of what collectors call button stick, sometimes also referred to as button lock stiffness. Basically, when the blade is fully deployed, the button doesn't press as smoothly as it ideally should. It feels like the button is sticking slightly against the tang of the blade. It's not a deal breaker, though this is a common thing with brand new button lock knives, and in most cases it smooths out after some use as the materials wear in naturally. I'm confident that with a little break-in time, that stickiness will fade and the lock will feel much more fluid. As you keep using the knife opening it, closing it over and over, the steel and the button lock start to wear in together. The tolerances gradually settle, and before long, the action becomes smoother and smoother until you end up with a deployment that feels buttery, almost effortless. Now, the flip action itself? I've got to say, I really enjoy it. Considering this is an entry-level knife budget-friendly, something pretty much anyone can pick up, it actually delivers a very respectable action. The deployment is surprisingly smooth, better than I expected at this price point. From the feel of it, I'm almost certain that inside the pivot, we're dealing with ball bearings rather than simple washers. That makes a huge difference. Bearings reduce friction dramatically, and you can tell because the blade just glides open with very little resistance. For a knife in this tier, that's a fantastic feature. Let's check out the pocket clip. As you can see, it's fairly discreet. Once the knife is in hand, it doesn't interfere with my grip at all. A lot of clips tend to create a hot spot, especially when the end of the clip sticks up against your palm. But in this case, I honestly don't feel it digging in or disrupting my hold. That's a big win for comfort and ergonomics. The one thing I do notice right away is the jimping. For those who are new to the term, jimping refers to these small grooves or notches cut into the spine of the blade or handle. They give your thumb a place to rest securely, adding traction so you can apply more pressure without slipping. On this knife, the jimping is subtle but functional. It gives me that extra control when I bear down with my thumb. Now, let's talk about one detail that feels a little off in terms of ergonomics. The jimping on this knife is positioned a bit too far back for my taste. Ideally, I would have liked it to be placed slightly more forward right around this area here because of how it changes the way you naturally grip the knife. Here's what I mean. In a normal hold, your thumb wants to rest on that jimping, but since it's set further back, you're forced to shift your entire hand backward. That means your pinky finger ends up kind of floating in the air without proper support, which doesn't feel natural or ergonomic. If the jimping were moved just a little further forward in the design, all 4 fingers, including the pinky, would sit comfortably along the handle, while the thumb could lock into that jimping in a way that actually enhances control and pressure. As it stands, the placement doesn't really help with applying more force to the cut. In fact, it does the opposite. It takes away from your grip because you lose part of the scale surface that should be supporting your hand. You're basically forced to choke back on the handle, which weakens the overall hold. Now, if I slide my thumb forward beyond the intended jimping, suddenly everything feels perfect. The grip locks in, my fingers line up properly, and the knife feels much more secure. So, in my view, this is a small but important design flaw. Maybe the decision was made for aesthetic reasons, I don't know, but from a user's perspective, the ergonomics definitely take a hit because of it. Of course, if you've got smaller hands, this whole issue with the jimping might not be such a big deal. But for me, with what I'd call an average to large hand size, it definitely feels a little uncomfortable having the jimping placed this far back. It just doesn't match the natural ergonomics of my grip. Now, moving on to the blade. This is a clip point design made from D2 steel. For those who might not know, D2 is considered a mid-tier steel. It's budget-friendly and offers pretty solid performance for the price. That being said, it's not stainless, so it doesn't have the same corrosion resistance as higher-end steels like S35VN or M390. And while it will take a good edge, it won't hold that edge nearly as long as a premium steel would. But honestly, for the cost of this knife, what more can you ask for? It's absolutely serviceable. If the edge starts to dull, you can easily sharpen it back up. And as long as you give it proper maintenance, you'll get plenty of use out of it. There are sprays and protective solutions made from natural vegetable oils that help against corrosion. But personally, I like to recommend a light coat of WD-40. It's a well-known oil worldwide, and applying just a little bit from time to time goes a long way in protecting your blade from rust. Looking further at the build, we've got a backspacer, nothing fancy, but it looks like it's either made from carbon fiber or G10. Pretty minimalistic, very discreet. The liners appear to be stainless steel, which adds some durability and rigidity to the construction. Overall, the knife doesn't feel too heavy, but it's not feather light either. It sits in that middle range, enough heft to feel solid in hand without becoming a burden to carry. And that's where I'll leave it for now, because this is just an unboxing and first impressions. I'll be putting this Ganzo Firebird through its paces, and we'll bring you guys a full review very soon, so stay tuned for that. After carrying it around and giving it some pocket time, you'll soon be able to see here on the channel how this little guy has performed in real-world use. I've been putting it through different everyday tasks, and overall it's been holding up just fine. One last detail before we wrap up. The pivot. It looks like it's secured with a single torque screw, most likely a T8, maybe a T6 on just one side. That makes it pretty straightforward if you ever want to adjust or tune the knife. Right now, the blade does sit ever so slightly off-center, leaning just a hair to the left. But honestly, it's minimal, nothing that affects the performance, and well within what I'd call an acceptable tolerance for a knife in this price range. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of today's unboxing and first impressions. I hope you enjoyed meeting this compact little companion. On behalf of myself and all my monsters, I wish you a great week, whatever year it is when you're watching this video. And let me make something clear. Here in Filomania, we don't promote knife violence. We see knives as collectible pieces of craftsmanship, objects of design and utility that are meant to be appreciated, preserved, and valued for the future. and I truly believe more and more people will come to understand their worth over time. So that's it for today, my friends. Sending you all a big hug, and until next time, take care and see you soon. Ciao!